right, January 8th, there's 4 NHL games ahead of us on the schedule tonight. So we'll get into each of those, break them down, give out best bets if we've got them, as well as answer questions from the chat. So if you do have those, please send them in there throughout the course of the show here today, and we will try to answer those. But before we can get into any of the topics today, whether it's the games going on, our bets that we have, or somehow the Leafs dropping that they're signing William Nylander this morning on early Monday morning, I got to remind everybody that today's show, as always, is sponsored by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is by using multiple sports books and always getting the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp to help you do so. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book, whether it's for games, futures, or player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Make sure to download the app today. It is available on iOS, Android, as well as on the web. And if you are looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/edgework. That's betstamp.app/edgework. Any signups through here does help support the show, so we do greatly appreciate that. But boys, Monday morning, we are getting ready to kick off this week. We only got 4 games on the schedule tonight, but lots of games that went on over the weekend, whether it was for NFL games, deciding playoffs, final positions there, or just some interesting NHL stuff happening. As Alex, we do see that Connor Bedard is now going to miss the next 6 weeks of play with a broken jaw. What are your thoughts on kind of the state of this team as it is right now without Bedard in the lineup? And is this just a surefire way to go out there and now try to get Macklin Celebrini for next year?
Well, when you have $37 in cap money on the IR and basically $32 million in your lineup, that tells you all you need to know. This is a dire straight situation for any team, and it doesn't matter if you're rebuilding or if you're a contender. You lose 8 or 9 key players going injured reserve, you're in deep trouble. And for this team, it's the utmost of troublesome right now. And this is bad for the league. One, with Connor Bedard out, you got a game coming up this week where he would have been going up against Connor McDavid on ESPN Plus. That's now ruined. You had him going to his first All-Star game, participating in the skills competition most likely. That's pretty much in jeopardy, if not thrown out of the question at this point now. So it throws a lot of things off the league. It throws a lot of things off of the Hawks in this development time. And for Bedard himself, it's just unfortunate. It was a clean hit. There was nothing dirty or malicious about it. But, fortunately, just took it in a bad spot. And is not going to have to deal with this for the next 4 to 6 weeks. He's out along with Nick Foligno, who's the real heart and soul of this team as far as the veterans go. He's the one who, you hear the quotes coming out of the locker room every couple of weeks. He's keeping everybody in line and everybody, on their toes, and that's what's needed in that locker room. So to have him missing is just as big in my eyes as Connor Bedard. So the Hawks are in deep trouble right now. Their team not worth touching going. They did find a way to grit out a 4-3 win yesterday afternoon, but things are going to go from bad to worse here. And like my tag says, it's time to Celebrini because we could be right in line for yet another first overall pick coming this May.
Well, and so Money, I see a question here from Jeremy. I'll throw this to you here on this. Does that open up the Rookie of the Year race? You see that news come through. It's 6 weeks. It's not the remainder of the season. But does this kind of open up the possibility of some of the other players kind of emerging or being able to take over that award? And then if so, are there any players out there that you would be looking at right now to kind of jump on, to get prices on, or has a lot of it already adjusted?
So it's the injury, of course, was unfortunate, right? And then slowly your thoughts go to the awards races because that's just who we are, right? So I was looking at that and my first thought was that is there anybody else who this would open the door up for, right? So you look at Luke Hughes, right? It would be Hughes, Fantilli, or Faber, maybe, right? So we have plus 400, plus 800, plus 1,000, right? So I think those are adjusted. So I didn't see an opportunity to pounce on anybody else, but where I did see an opportunity is that if it is six weeks or 7 weeks or whatever it is, he's going to come back, right? And I would assume that he's going to be back to the level that close to or hopefully better, but close to where he was And in that case, he would still lead the rookies in points, right? So in that situation, the narrative is there, right? Like the kid missed time, and he still led the rookies, right? So I think that as the weeks go on here, especially the next couple of weeks, as the scoring race tightens, right? Just because it will, I think, and as his odds shorten just before he comes back, I think that will be the best opportunity to get a shorter price on Connor Bedard to win Rookie of the Year. Like he's at minus
Yeah.
225 right now. Um, I wouldn't do that right now just because I want some clarity on exactly how long he's going to be out for. Um, if it is 6 weeks, then I mean, obviously in like week 4, week 5, we can start looking at how much his odds have shortened. So at that point, I'd be more inclined to bet Connor Bedard at shorter odds just before he's coming back, as opposed to taking a shot at someone right now.
Well, and how would you approach that over the next couple of weeks then? And I mean this more from a perspective like, is this going to be solely numbers? So you see that number continues to shorten. He gets around. I don't even know where he would get to, but let's say one of these other guys, Fantilli or Luke Hughes, really steps up in the next 6 weeks. One of
Yeah.
those two guys, or both of those two guys, really take off, and they're putting up points or making a massive impact on the game, and it kind of starts to change things from that standpoint. Would that hold you off of a position on Connor Bedard? Is there a price that you look at and you would say, at that one, I have to bet this?
If at any point throughout the next 6 weeks, if I get Connor Bedard at minus 160, minus 170, I'm gonna do it, right? Regardless of like whether we have clarity on when he's coming back or not. It's a little bit outside right now at minus 225, but yeah, well, once we get to that level, I'm gonna do it, right? It's very possible Luke Hughes could take off. I'm not that confident in Fantilli doing it. I think that he's just not in the right situation. But Luke Hughes is the concern, right? And it's very possible
Yeah.
that he could take off. But regardless, if I get Bedard at minus 160, minus 170, I'm doing it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Alex, I mean, would you be involved in these awards races at all? Did you take any positions on them?
So I had the only position that I had going into the beginning of the Calder Cup race was a long shot that I threw on Dustin Wolf. I thought he might get called up earlier and ended up being the guy at this point now to be leading Calgary. That's certainly not the case. So that ticket's dead in the water. I did take a shot about a couple of weeks ago and grabbed 12-1 on Brock Faber of the Minnesota Wild. I've been reading just a lot of, not only watching him obviously being here in Minnesota, but just reading a lot of the kind of advanced stat metrics where he's leading kind of, first or second amongst rookie defensemen in a lot of different categories. I thought it's worth having in pocket because keep in mind 3 finalists make the cut, and then we go from there. We find out who wins the award. So I was kind of making that as just a side bet of, he might be one of the 3 finalists, and I have 12-1 in pocket. So now that looks a lot better. Somebody mentioned Luke Hughes would be a guy that you maybe want to grab in pocket. And even as Bedard comes down, because I'm seeing at FanDuel right now, you can't even bet anyone individually. It's just Connor Bedard minus 240 or the field at plus 186. So a lot of books have either pulled things down altogether or they're offering goofy things like that. So that kind of lets you know exactly what So Money said, that, the value is still really on him. And once we can get into a strike point of worth betting on, which, 160, 180, I wouldn't lay that in the game. But when you're talking about a futures odd in a market where he was minus 270, 300 and could still win the title, that's definitely worth jumping in.
All right, well, let's get into some of the games here today. We got 4 ahead of us, so we'll break those down. If you have questions about the game or you have more questions throughout the rest of the show here today, please continue to send them in there. We'll try to answer those. And as well, hit that like button here on the show today. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. We're getting closer and closer to 2,000 subscribers. Want to get to that 2,000 mark? Every like, comment, subscribe does help us get closer and closer to that goal. So we do appreciate that. But Alex, we start off the morning talking about your Chicago Blackhawks and talking about Connor Bedard. Now we're going to start off tonight's games with the Vancouver Canucks on the road here tonight against the New York Rangers. The Rangers hosting Vancouver at minus 140 here we see, and a total of 6.5 right now. Before we give the floor to So Money to let him tell us about his Canucks. Alex, we'll go to you first and foremost. Do you have anything in this game here tonight? What are your thoughts on where this number comes in at and the total right now?
Yeah, I mean, this looks like it's going to be a really good matchup. Obviously, two first place teams battling it out. It's funny, everything you click on and read, and I'm sorry so many, but everything I clicked on and read last night leading up to this game kept bringing up the 30-year anniversary of 1994, which I think that's completely unfair. We're talking about two completely different time frames, and if I were to have a series between these two teams now, I'd probably be siding on Vancouver as opposed to New York in this iteration. So that being said, I do think this is a close game tonight. I might take a small shot with a draw, but I don't have anything official as of right now.
Well, it's so money. Taking the dagger, the 94, the 30-year anniversary. Does that bring up old memories there for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, like we all carry childhood trauma with us, right? I was 10 years old, right? And I insist to this day that that Stanley Cup final shaped my whole being as an adult, right? I'll tell you why. I was 10 years old, right? And there was no doubt in my mind as a 10-year-old kid that the Canucks were going to win the Stanley Cup. Just no doubt. There was like throughout that whole cup run, like after Kirk McLean made that save on Robert Reichel in Game 7 in overtime in the first round, like there was after that point it was just destined, right? Like three overtime wins to come back against Calgary, and throughout that whole playoff run, like we had like the songs going, and like it was good. I was feeling good as a kid, right? There was just no other option, right? And then just to have it ripped out from me like that really changed me from having hope as a kid to just being like just whatever, man. Like things don't work out the way that you want them to in life, right? And then that made me very objective, and I just took the emotion out of a lot of things, right? So now for them to bring up again, which just randomly, it's not even it's fucking January, man. Like it's not even the 30th,
Right.
and it's not the 3rd-year anniversary of anything, right? Like it's hard enough in June when it comes up, right? And now we're talking about it in January just because the Canucks are in New York, right? So yeah, man. So that's not cool. Um, with this game here, I think that it's a pretty fair line. I think that the Rangers should be a a decent favorite at home. I think that we are where we are. If the Canucks get to, I need the Canucks at about plus 135 for me to have for me to have significant interest in this game. Right now, I think we're fair. They are on a back-to-back. I'm assuming Demko's going to go today, but it wouldn't shock me if they do go with the Smith. Demko has started a few games in a row here. How many games is that? 3 games, right? So he generally caps out at 4, right? So like Talkett usually gets him up to 4 games in a row before they switch. So I think Demko will go, but I obviously would need confirmation on that. So right now, I think it's a fair line. It's not something I'm going to get involved with right now, but yeah, we just I'm not. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to handle any of this 30-year anniversary talk like in like January. So I don't even know where that comes from. So yeah, I just want to get I just want to get through this day, you guys. Honestly.
Well, all I'll say is I would just mute Matt Alber on whatever platforms you have him on, whatever messages, anything like that. Probably just block his number. Don't let anything come through from him.
Probably a good idea.
But the other thing I would say is that just hope that he's bet on the Rangers tonight, because then you can just go and unload on the Canucks, because at this rate, we can just chalk that up as a win. So hopefully at some point here he says in the chat that that's who he's on, so money, and then that's a good sign for you. Yeah, and there you go. As Right Wing Fan 23 says, you get your revenge today.
Yeah, it's gonna. The only way that things will ever get better for me is for me to see a Stanley Cup in my lifetime.
All right.
That's why,
Let's.
like, if you care about me, right? Like, we should all be cheering for the Canucks. Right? It's very important.
To right the wrongs. That's why this is what
Exactly.
it is. Okay.
We gotta make things right in the world.
All right, let's move on here. We got a couple other games here, so we got to get to those. We got the Philadelphia Flyers here tonight hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins. Philly plus 107. The Penguins coming in minus 119, a total of 6. So money. I know that you've been big on the Flyers this year. Is that going to continue here tonight, or are we looking at an opportunity here to get behind the Penguins?
No, I did bet the Penguins. I like them up to minus 130. So Pittsburgh, we've talked about the last couple of weeks. I'm very high on them. I think that and they're playing well, right? Even in the loss against Buffalo, I thought they were pretty unlucky there. I didn't think that. I thought Jari he didn't play well, but the team it was a good team game, and they've continued that. It's been a good, I would say a good probably 3 weeks now that this team has been playing that this team has been playing up to that level. So there's no reason for me to think that won't continue. They did play in early December. They played a home and home, and the Flyers took both games. They were both in overtime, I believe. I think a shootout and an overtime. Um, but I had both those games scored as a as a coin flip when that was just before the Penguins play started taking off, right? So that's where my edge is built in. And then for the um, Flyers, so they did struggle before their last couple of games here against Columbus. Even though they lost against Columbus, I thought that I had that game scored as a Flyers win, and then Calgary, which that was a deserving win. But before that, they were struggling. So now they played Columbus, who is Columbus. I mean, you should play well against Columbus, and Calgary, except for the Leafs, Zach. And
Yeah.
and and then the Flames, who were now seeing a little bit of a dip in their play, right? So it's not that I'm taking anything away from the Flyers in those games, but what I'm saying is that they struggled before those two games. Um, then they played well against a couple of teams who are on a dip, and now they're stepping up in class again against the Penguins. And I feel that has not been reflected in the market yet, right? So I do have the Penguins up to minus 130 in this game, and that's where we bet it.
That was such an unnecessary shot. I knew it was implied in there some money, but that was unnecessary. You
Yeah,
didn't have to
look,
outright say it. We could have
look,
let it go by.
I'm just in a bad mood now, right? So like I'm gonna take shots at like everything now. Like I don't understand why we're talking about a 30-year anniversary in January.
Writers
Anyways,
need something to write, I guess.
Pittsburgh minus 119 on the money line. We locked that in here against Philly tonight. Alex, is there anything that you're looking at in this game?
Yeah, I'm actually on the regulation draw here. I grabbed plus 325, which is now kind of dropped in most markets around 315 to 320. The dancing kind of close on that plus 300 line. That's really kind of my bottom cutoff point, really, for a draw. It shouldn't be getting any. You should be getting at least plus 300 if you're betting any of these regulation draws during the season. So 320 is fair enough, especially when you look at like the series history. We saw back-to-back, matchups early last month, both of them going past regulation. So plus 320, putting a full unit here. Penguins Flyers to go past regulation.
All right, there you go, plus 330. We have their Pinnacle best price available, so grab that. Make sure to shop around. But 2 bets there in that game. We will lock those in. And again, we will recap all of these at the very end of the show, so don't worry if you've missed anything. If you feel like you're trying to find out what numbers there were. We will go back and recap all of those at the very end as well. Just a quick reminder now, through 2 games, but less than half the people watching the show right now have hit the like button. It's just not enough. As someone who said before, we will continue to say again, smash the like button if you are watching right now. Please hit the like button, support the show. Another game coming up next here, Alex, where you are, Minnesota Wilds hosting the Dallas Stars here tonight. Minnesota plus 122, Dallas minus 135, and a total of 6 right now. Talk to us a little bit about this Minnesota Wild team and where the price is coming in right now in this game against the Stars.
Yeah, I mean, the Wild, they're just completely banged up right now, and the John Hines honeymoon is over. We saw that little coach bump after everything got fired, and this team played with a bunch of life and energy, and they had some offense going for the first time all year, and then all that just kind of fizzled. And it made sense. You can see the writing on the wall. John Hines, if you look at his tenures, in Nashville and New Jersey, they were defensive-minded, and eventually once the defense vaulted, then the team just had pretty much nothing. So they're not in the best of spots right now. Considerably with Dallas, they're having their own issues. They're still missing Jake Ottinger dearly, and they're running Scott Wedgwood into the ground because they don't want to put Matthew Murray in net, which now begs the question, is Matthew Murray worth being an NHL goaltender? Dallas seems to maybe think not quite so much because they keep running Scott Wedgwood in there every night. And now you have Miro Heiskanen, one of your top defensemen, out for at least a month as well. Thankfully, they won't be missing him for the rest of the season. They said he won't be needing any kind of surgery or anything like that, but he will be gone for another few weeks, and he'll be missing this game. And so I think there's some weaknesses defensively for Dallas. I think there's just weaknesses overall for Minnesota. I'm just going to keep on riding with what I've been riding on with the Dallas Stars. That's that first period over, 17-6 run. And we haven't seen a price close at anything minus $1.50 or higher. It's fascinating to see when you think about first period runs over the last 5-6 years where we've seen the books adjust these numbers in crazy ways on these patterns. They have not done that with Dallas. So it's still getting great value, minus $1.24 at Pinnacle, all the way up to $1.40 at DraftKings. I grabbed $1.25 when I got up this morning, so that's the range I'll be shooting at. So Pinnacle, your best option if you have that book available to you.
So Dallas, Minnesota, first period over, 1.5, minus 124 there. We'll lock that in for our third official play of the day here. So Money, is there any other way that you'd be looking at this game tonight?
No, I'm going to cheer for Alex and his first period over here. In terms of the game line, I think it's fair. I think that with the personnel issues that both teams are dealing with, Dallas's goaltending issues, and just them being on the road here, you can't install them as too big of a favorite, and you shouldn't. So I think that where they are right now is fair. So I'll be passing on the game. Maybe I would have considered the over, but I think it's already been juiced enough. So so I'll be passing on that game.
All right, and final game of the night here that we'll take a look at. And again, if people have questions, I saw there was one earlier, so we'll get to that at the very end here as well. But if people do have questions, whether it's just about general hockey betting, futures, whatever it is, please send them. We'll try to answer them after the final game here. And that would be the Colorado Avalanche hosting the Boston Bruins tonight. Colorado minus 122, Boston plus 110. We see a total right now of 6.5. That is on plus money on the over 6.5. So, Money, what are your thoughts right now looking at this Colorado team coming off the loss the other day to the Florida Panthers and going up against Boston as favorites with this minus 122 number right now?
So I don't have a play in this game, but I'm very interested in watching this game because I do feel that there's a lot of elements in this game with two teams that are good enough to be able to go deep. So I do want to have more access with these teams playing each other. So Boston, right? We talked about Boston last week in the sense that they do want to get back to their more defensive game, but for whatever reason they're not able to right now. They're not playing well defensively. They do give up a bunch of chances, and Colorado, it seems like they've made a conscious decision here to just try to outscore teams, right? So where Boston is more inclined to slow it down, Colorado just wants to skate, right? So I'm curious how this game plays out in terms of the line composition. So this is similar to a lot of the pick'em games we see where you just you just put the favorite on the home team and just call it a day,
Yeah.
which is where we should be right now, right? So Colorado minus 120, 125. I think that's where we should be. Once they start getting into the 130 range, I think that's a little inflated. But as of right now, I think we are where we should be, and I'm more interested to see which team style wins out here. Um, I think that I mean the total is fair too, right? I'd like a juiced 6.5. I think that it's pretty fair, but yeah, I'm just more curious to see how this game plays out more than having a betting interest in it.
Well, Alex, so money, it doesn't have a bet here, but would you possibly have one in this game?
I don't as of now. This is one I kind of circled as a live wager game, and like somebody said, the numbers are fairly tight, especially when you're looking at the totals. I think we could wait a few minutes and possibly get 5.5. We maybe even be able to get plus money on a 1.5 in the first period over. If we see in the pace that we like, keep in mind Boston has won the last three meetings here, and they won them by margin. All three of those victories came by exactly 4 goals, or a 4 goal margin, I should say. So they've been high scoring affairs. So Boston's been comfortable playing in the altitude, playing against this team, matching their style, and this is where we kind of see that when we see East-West matchups like this, you tend to see the physicality of those Eastern teams, at least the Eastern teams that play a more physical base. They impose that a little bit more on those Western Conference teams. We even saw it with Florida. Yes, they scored 8 goals, but they were a lot more physical than they would be, say, against a Washington. So that's something to keep in mind there too. So with that being said, I'm leaning toward Boston. I'm leaning toward an over, but I'm looking for those things in game, and I just want to see how things shape up in the first few minutes.
All right, well, nothing for us there ahead of the game, so we're not going to force it, but we will recap all these at the very end. Before we do have a question in the chat here. Matthew Bingham had asked pretty early, so I'll leave it to you guys as well. Morning, fellas. If you have a moment, would you mind discussing the merits of doing round-robin betting, particularly if looking to capitalize on an edge on multiple games with heavier juice? Cheers. Did provide an example here as well, saying a Yankee 11 bets on 4 games that could be in the minus 150 to 200 or so juice, all of which you feel you have an edge on. Better to bet individually, or is the round robin the way to go? I'll leave this to you guys to break down as well here.
Yeah, so round robin, it is a strategy that is implemented. It's mostly used to when you have multiple edges, you can kind of hide what you're doing in a sense, right? Especially in a book that's not as sharp, who will look at you and the individual bets that you're putting in. If you're always beating the market, they will pretty much come down hard on you. So a round robin is a way to not only hide what you're doing, but also circumvent limits as well, right? Like you're not going to be able to get theoretically as much down on individual games, but if you're able to round robin, you can increase the potential payout on the individual games that you would have been betting anyways, right? So and it's a sharper strategy, of course, than doing a parlay. But yeah, so like round robins, they are exclusively used at non-sharp books to hide your action and to circumvent limits. And
Yeah.
it's a very viable strategy as well.
Right. I don't know, Alex, if you have anything to add there.
No, I mean I don't do it often, but that's pretty much all I've ever heard about in regards to round robins. Though that's kind of right in line.
All right, well, that'll do it for today's show. In terms of the picks that we have here, to quick recap, we only got 3 best bets, and we got 2 in the Pittsburgh-Philly game. We're going to take the Pittsburgh money line minus 119 there, full unit on all 3 of these, by the way. The Penguins money line minus 119 as well. We're going to take the regulation time draw plus 330 there between the Penguins and the Flyers. And then finally, we're going to go to the Dallas-Minnesota game and take the first period over 1.5 minus 124 there. So those are our 3 bets. If you do want to see all of these, you want to see them on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever it is, you can find them over in the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. See how we've done throughout the course of the season. See how we've done dating back to last year. You can find all of that in there, so make sure to give that a check out as well on top of that. If you're looking for show updates, you're looking for Saturday best bets, you want to know how, when, and why those picks are coming in on Saturdays or throughout the course of the week, who's on what show on any given day, make sure to follow us on Twitter at EdgeworkHQ. And then final note, today, the College Football National Championship game does kick off. Joey Knish, Brad Powers will be going live on the Hit the Books YouTube channel at 4:30 p.m. until about 6 o'clock, giving you pre-game breakdown, maybe some final bets, some player props leading into the Michigan-Washington game here tonight, as well as joined by special guests Douglas Farmer, Parker Fleming, and Franchise KF. If you have seen those people on Twitter, they will be hopping in on that show here tonight. So give that a look. Make sure to go over there, turn on notifications so you get notified when that show goes live as well. But thanks to everyone who tuned in here today. Greatly appreciate it. So money, Alex, thank you guys for taking the time to do this. As always, look forward to seeing you later in the week. For everyone else, enjoy the games. Good luck on your bets tonight.